Welcome to Grow Good, a place to spread joy, beauty, and goodness, to bear good fruit, a place where others can meet or be inspired to meet God. So get cozy, lean in, and listen close. Miracles are at work, and He wants to meet you too. Hi, friends, and happy Tuesday. I am so excited to bring to you today a conversation with Kaitlin Gilday. She is a focused missionary in England, actually. She helped to start their first branch in England. So her story is amazing. We met in an amazing way by chance, totally from the work of God at my local parish in Newburyport when she was home for break. But her local parish is about 30 minutes away, and she decided after missing morning mass at her local parish to come to Newburyport to go to mass at Immaculate Conception. And it happened to be the only day that I was up in front of the mass announcing the Blessed is She Woman at the Well group Bible study that I was starting. And she came up to me after and introduced herself and gave me her card. And we went and got coffee that week that she was home. And we've been good friends since. It's been such a blessing to have her in my life, especially as I grow in my faith. It's been so nice to have someone who has been following Jesus for as long as she has, and it's taken her literally all over the world. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. She is such an inspiration to me, and I'm sure she will be for all of you as well. So enjoy. Kaitlin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you start out by just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so my name is Caitlin, and I serve as a missionary with Focus, which is the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. So I'm a missionary on a university campus serving college students, and I'm actually in Southampton, England, at the University of Southampton, here with a team of 4 others.
That is awesome. And yeah, so just a little bit of background. Caitlin and I met by chance, by Holy Spirit chance, at my local parish here in Newburyport when Caitlin was home from London on break, right, over the holidays. Yeah, and it really has blossomed into like a friendship in the faith, and we've been able to share a lot just about my own journey and also hers. So I'm so excited to be able to share her story today. So I guess just to start out, could you just tell us a little bit about your background in the faith and when you first kind of had a moment of encounter with God at your personal level?
Yes, yeah. So I grew up in a Catholic home, and I went to Catholic schools pretty much my whole life until I went to college. And so I knew a lot of things, but I didn't. Yeah, I knew a lot of things, but I didn't know the Lord personally. But I was always like, did the right thing, was a good kid. But when I got to college, I just stopped going to mass. I wasn't choosing to be an atheist, or it wasn't that I didn't believe in God. It just was so irrelevant to me. My faith just didn't have any weight or meaning or purpose in my life, so I just kind of ignored it. But I found after that first year, I went to the University of Connecticut. After that first year, I was really, really unhappy. And I think what made me realize my unhappiness was hearing from a friend who also was in her first year of college, and she got involved with the Bible study and was meeting a lot of great friends through the Catholic Center at her school. And hearing this, how joyful she was and what an amazing experience she was having at her university, it made me want to make a change in my life somehow. So I went back to UConn my second year and I thought what I needed was friends in my life. I thought I just needed different friends to get me a different crowd of people. And I tried to make different friends, but it wasn't really working exactly. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to go back to the church, because that's where my friend met people in her life. And so maybe I can do the same. And right away I went to this mass a few weeks into the school year, and I remember standing outside the mass, just hoping that someone would come say hi to me, that someone would talk to me. And I emphasize this moment because I think it's so important when we find ourselves either at the beginning or the end of mass somewhere on a Sunday, that we say hi to someone or introduce ourselves to someone new, because if this girl Anne Marie hadn't come say hi to me, I might not have come back to mass because I would have felt maybe not wanted there. But she really was the face of Christ for me in that moment. So I met this girl Anne Marie who happened to be a Focus missionary. I didn't realize, but yeah, she was so friendly.
How did she, sorry if you don't mind me interjecting, but how did she approach you? Because, so you were was this before or after the mass? Were you just kind of like walking out and she just like found you and said hi, or how did that go?
Yeah, after mass, I didn't run right out because I was trying to, make a friend or meet someone. So I really was just sort of standing there in the lobby area of the church. And she came right over and was like, "Oh, I don't think I've met you yet. My name's Anne Marie. What's your name?" That's a great line to use. I don't think I've met you yet. Because it didn't make me feel like, oh, she knows that I'm new and I haven't been here before. It just was like, oh, our paths haven't crossed yet. And yeah, she just introduced herself, was confident, calm, peaceful. Yeah, it was very nice. Yeah. And just that small invitation led to a really great friendship that was just slowly starting to develop over the next few weeks and months. And as I became better friends with Anne Marie and some of the other missionaries and a few other students that were at the Catholic Center, I hadn't exactly changed the way that I was living yet, my previous lifestyle from my first year in college, but I was very much intrigued by the way that they were living their life. They weren't going out and getting drunk on the weekends. They weren't sleeping around. They dressed really modestly, but really fashionably as well. That really struck me. They were so kind in the way that they spoke. They never spoke badly about other people. And I just found myself always wanting to be around these people from the church. And I was like, what is it about them that is making them have such this light about them and this joy about them that's so attractive? And eventually, after a few months, I knew Anne Marie was a missionary, and I knew that she led Bible studies, and she had invited me to come to this small group Bible study with a few other girls who were coming to Mass on Sunday. And I was a bit hesitant at first because I thought, oh, I already kind of know everything about the Bible because I went to Catholic school, so I know everything already. But
like, oh yeah, I've read that book before.
yeah. I've already tried this thing called the Bible. But it was really because of my friendship with her, that I said yes to go to this Bible study. So I went along to this Bible study, and yeah, I will never forget this first Bible study that I went to, because it opened my eyes to the scriptures in a way that I had never seen or experienced before. We read the story of the prodigal son, which is so good, especially at this time during Lent. It's a great story to go back to and to read and to pray with. But we read through the prodigal son, and the way that Anne Marie asked questions in the Bible study, can you relate to the younger son or the older son, or what do you think of the father's mercy? I didn't know that scripture could relate to your life in the way that she was talking about, in the way that it so clearly related to her life and in her experience. And I walked away from that Bible study just like, wow, all these stories that I read maybe as a kid or in school growing up, in all my time reading the Bible, how come I didn't realize that, these stories actually have can speak such truth into my life, and it was really transformative to me. So I went back every week after that. I went back to this Bible study. I started going to a second Bible study, and this for me was kind of the opening of Jesus really beginning to change my heart.
Did you realize like what was happening at that point, or were you kind of just like were you like, what is happening? Or were you like, all right, I'm going to do this, like I'm, gung ho about the faith, or was it like kind of a slow, like it was happening in your heart before you even kind of realized it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Second, I think it was happening in my heart before I fully realized what was happening. I remember deciding to go to a second Bible study. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do all the things I can now for God. It was more like it was a genuine curiosity is what I would say. I was so like captivated and attracted to what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And in these people who were living for Christ in a way I'd never.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. You're kind of like you're intrigued, like you wanted to know more, which is so cool because I think he was like totally obviously working through all of that like the whole time. But and it was kind of like inviting you deeper, but like slowly, in a way that he knew obviously what would speak to you when. So I think that's so beautiful.
Yes, I love part of why I love hearing people's stories is because the Lord works so uniquely in each of our lives, because he knows exactly what we need at that particular point in time. And definitely for me, it was a very gentle, slow journey initially. And I'd say being in the Bible study was huge, but I'd say probably mostly what solidified it for me was, and again, going back to the curiosity, the genuine curiosity was, I would see these missionaries so I had to walk by the church every morning on my way to class. I had an 8 a.m. class every day that semester. And so I'd walk by the church on my way to class, and I'd see the missionaries going into the church. And when I'd come back from class, they were coming out of the church. And every day, I never asked them about it, but I just was thinking, what are they doing in that church every day, every morning for an hour? And just as the time went on, I was having a desire to, maybe I want to go in the church and see what's in there. But I just thought you could only go in the church on Sundays. So I never did. But this curiosity was building and building until one day, one of the missionaries said, Caitlin, would you like to come in and pray with us? We always pray in the morning. And so I said yes. I went in. I maybe stayed for about 10 minutes or so. I just sat down in front of the tabernacle, and I didn't even really know how to pray, but I kind of just was sort of reflecting on what we talked about in Bible study that week. And I enjoyed the time so much. I ended up stopping in the chapel every day after that 8 a.m. class after that. And just that 10 minutes every day with the Lord in prayer, in silence, letting him speak to me through the scriptures. Often I would go back to whatever we read in Bible study. That was really, really, I'd say, where my relationship with Christ took off a lot more.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that, everything about that. But I just love how, yeah, just giving even like, yeah, like 2 minutes or 5 minutes. But it takes obviously like knowing the self-awareness that you knew, like, wow, that felt like so nice. I want to go back, because
Mm.
I feel like it was the same thing, like for me, especially just in like the world today. It's just so like loud and busy, and like, it's like you never get a second to just be, I don't know, So then when you realize like that's what it is, it's kind of just like getting connected with your, I mean, really, I found out later, so much more, but it really started with just that 5 minutes of peace, and but it was like nice that you had that self-awareness to be able to realize like, wow, that felt really good. I'm going to try that again.
Yeah.
So then, yeah. Okay. So then, wow, that was a lot. Just to go back to like the beginning, when you first went to mass, were you like scared? Were you feeling nervous at that point when you decided to try mass? Like, was it kind of just like, I don't know what else to do? This is what I know. This is what I did when I grew up. So I guess I'll try going to mass and see what happens. Was it like that kind of
Yeah.
thought?
I was
Yeah.
really nervous to go because no friends that I had at all were going to mass or to any kind of church service on a Sunday. And so I didn't tell any of my friends also. I just was like, I'm going out for a little bit. So I definitely was very nervous, but I went really, I think, from my friend Jenna, the one who was my friend who was at a different college, her witness of her experience going back to mass and meeting some really great people and starting her journey with Jesus. That for me, like someone who I trusted, them sharing their story with me, that's kind of what gave me that, well, maybe the same thing could happen for me kind of
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
amazing. And then, right, the odds that you met Anne Marie, was that her name? Yeah, at that mass, that's amazing. That's so cool. Okay, so then from there, kind of, you started spending a little bit more time every morning. What kind of happened from there? At this point, were you like actively living out your faith? Like, were you like going to mass and like going to the sacraments, or was it kind of just like through scripture, through these Bible studies for a while?
For a while, it was just scripture in the Bible studies. I'd say for a few months, and then I went um, to a conference that Focus was putting on, a big national conference down in Orlando, where there was just under 5,000 other college students there for this 5-day conference, just like coming to know God in a deeper way. It was called Made for More, off of the verse John 10:10. I've come that they may have life and have it in abundance.
Yes, love that.
It was so good. So I went to this conference and seeing, 4 to 5,000 other college students on their knees during the consecration at Mass, really, that for me was a moment of, Caitlin, this is real. This is true. This isn't just like a nice thing that you've experienced. This actually is the truth that God is real. He exists and he wants to come into my life. And so when I got back to Yukon, back to Connecticut from this conference, I was like, okay, I need to change my life a little bit. And so that's when I really had to make some, I say hard changes, and they were hard, but they were also so good. Like the joy in the challenge of following Jesus. So really, like, yes, stopping, living the life I was maybe living before, definitely committing to going to mass every Sunday. I started going to a daily mass just once a week. And I started telling my friends where I was going. I started telling them that I was going to a Bible study, and I started telling them that I was going to mass on a Sunday. And it was a really scary thing to do, but but I knew that's when, these more maybe active changes started happening in my life after that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense because I feel like, I don't know if it's like this for everyone, but I do feel like a lot of times it almost doesn't make sense until you kind of encounter Jesus, like at a personal level. And then you're like, oh, like this is why we have all these things that you're supposed to do, you know?
Yes.
Like, it's really just to like spend more time with Jesus. So like when you have a relationship, it starts to make more sense, you know, because that's when that's really when it clicked for me too. It was like, oh, I just want to spend more time with this living person this relationship that I have, you know, and it goes from being just like a list of things that you're supposed to do to, you know, it's just like a friendship that you would have with anyone else. Like you want to spend time cultivating that and growing it further.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely saw that clearly for myself with Mass and with confession, especially. At that conference, it was the first time I'd been to confession in quite a while. And I wasn't at the conference feeling like, oh, I have to do this now. It was like, no, I desire God's mercy. And even, going to Mass and starting to go to daily Mass, I was like, I don't feel like I have to do this. I actually desire more time with God, with the Savior of my life, you know?
Yes,
So
I love that.
kind of thing. Yeah.
So was there kind of a moment that you remember when it sounds like maybe it was at the conference, or was there another moment that you remember where you kind of had this like personal moment where you really gave your yes back to him, or you felt him calling you even deeper?
Yeah. I'd say it's maybe a twofold moment. I'd say the first half being at the conference definitely was like, this isn't just, a nice truth for you, Caitlin, but this is the truth of our faith. And if you're going to follow me, some changes you can make in your life. And the second half of that was maybe a month or two after the conference. Um, my Bible study leader, Anne Marie, and I, we went out for a coffee, and she had just shared with me more about her relationship with Jesus and how Jesus has invited her to be his disciple. He invites all of us to be his disciples and to really live on mission for him when he says, go therefore make disciples of all nations at the end of Matthew's gospel. And so she just invited me. She's like, Caitlin, I've seen you grow so much in your relationship with God over these last few months. And she's like, I just want to extend this invitation to you from the Lord to be his disciple. And not only to follow him and live your life for him, but to actually join him on mission, bringing more people to come to know him. Because our faith is meant to be shared. I love John Paul II, the quote from John Paul II, where he says, man only finds himself in making a sincere gift of himself to others. And so this invitation from Anne Marie to be Jesus' disciple, that for me also was a very clear, I think I took a week or two and really prayed, thought about it, and was like, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to be all in for Christ.
Oh, I love that. And so what did that mean? Was she like offering you a position on her team, or was it?
She said she's like, she wanted to kind of join me on this journey of being a disciple of God. And she's like, yeah, I would love to teach you how to pray. I want to teach you how to share your faith with other people. I want to teach you more about the sacraments. And that's kind of how actually the rest of my time at UConn looked like, with Anne Marie for a bit while she was there. But then after she left, with some other friends, a bit like maybe a step or two ahead of me on their journey with God, really just having someone or one or two people walk with me and show me what it looks like to really give your life to God. And that's what Jesus did with his disciples for those 3 years during his public ministry. Is he just spent all his time with his disciples, really teaching them how to live, teaching them the art of living. And that's kind of what the invitation was. Anne Marie was like, yeah, helping me to really show me what it looks like to live for God. So
And do you mind sharing a little, what the heck? There's a truck outside my apartment. It's really loud. Sorry about that. Do you mind sharing just like what your prayer looks like in discerning that? Like how did you like follow the feelings of your heart and like your gut, or are you wrestling with that? I don't know. Do you mind sharing just what that looks like?
yeah, of course. Yeah, it was definitely going a lot with my heart and my gut. But I think my prayer looked a lot kind of around, and I know you and I have spoken about this, Rachel, but about whoever seeks to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will save it, will find it. And I knew very like things that were coming up in my heart were like, Caitlin, you are making a commitment to give your life to Jesus, for the rest of your life. So things that I knew would be hard, like it's going to be hard to talk about my faith with other people because it's not necessarily a popular topic to talk about. Or Caitlin, you're going to commit to trying to live a life of virtue, and that might be hard, and it might be tempting to want to give up. But do you want to do this for Jesus, for the sake of living for Him? And so just praying through that, and also praying through, do I have a desire for other people to know Jesus? And I do at some level, but I think just over time that has grown a lot. The deeper that I go with my relationship with God, the more I want other people to come to know Him. That's kind of what that looked like. And I think also there was some fear there, like, well, why me? Like, I don't know enough about church teaching. I'm not outgoing enough. I'm not, cool enough, whatever it is, the fill in the blank, I'm not enough. But that took so much trust to believe, actually, Caitlin, this isn't your mission. This is the Lord's mission. And He's just inviting you to be a part of it, to be a part of the good works that He's already planned ahead of time for you to just step into and to embrace. And so once my prayer led me to that place, I was like, okay, actually, yeah, I'm just giving my yes, but it's really the Holy Spirit and Jesus that is doing everything through me.
Yeah, it's almost like just allowing yourself to be like a vessel, and
Yes.
and trusting like you're going to show me where to go and what to do, along the way. Yeah. Which helps because it's like, it's not just all on your shoulders, to figure out alone. So,
yeah.
Okay. So how has He since played a role in your life since that kind of moment and decision? What took off to bring you kind of where you are now?
To be sitting in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a wild journey with the Lord. It is amazing what He does in your life and where He takes you when you give Him your yes, even just the smallest yes. Because at that moment in my life, it was a big yes, but I mean, hindsight, looking back, I'm like, it's kind of a small yes from other things I've said yes to in my life. And so after that moment, I really dove into the rest of my time at UConn, dove into how can I share my relationship with God with my peers, with my friends. So I started leading my own Bible study, and I started doing some discipleship and mentorship with some of my friends that were in this Bible study. Then when I was getting ready to graduate, I studied to be a primary elementary education teacher, and which I still look forward to doing at some point. But I really felt an invitation from God to just give in a more radical way for at least some period of time. And the best way that I sought to do that for me in that particular moment was to apply to be a focus missionary. So I did that when I graduated. got accepted to be a Focus missionary and got sent off to Kansas, which is crazy because I really hadn't been outside in New England, except maybe to go to Disney World once or twice. So going to Kansas was wild. Served there as a missionary for a couple years. Initially, my commitment with Focus was for 2 years. And I initially thought, okay, I'll do 2 years, maybe I'll do a third, but then I'll go into teaching. But I have just really I've loved every minute of being a missionary with Focus. And I've just, felt a continued invitation from God to stay on this path, at least up till this point. So I was in Kansas for 2 years. Then I got invited to go to Texas, to Waco, Texas. So I served at Baylor University for a couple years. And that was also a new adventure. Texas is, wow, it's like another world.
Yeah, I bet. I've never been, but I've heard. Everything's bigger, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, everything's bigger. And that was a unique challenge for me because I met so many Christians, but not many Catholics, because, you're more in the Bible Belt area there. And that was a time that really challenged me to, okay, I'm Christian, but why am I Catholic? Mm-hmm. And really, really challenged me to read more, to pray more, look more into church teaching and why do I believe what I believe. And not just necessarily having a blind faith, but owning my faith a lot more, my Catholic faith. So that was a very formative couple of years. And then I was nearing the end of my time in Texas. I was thinking about coming back home to teach, but I got an invitation to come to England to be a missionary here in Southampton, and really wrestled with that. God, do you want me to go to a whole nother country to follow you and be your disciple? But yeah, I just had this moment in prayer where Jesus said to me, Caitlin, I won't love you anymore if you say yes to this invitation. And I won't love you any less if you say no to this invitation. And just had such this freedom to follow him. Yeah, just of my own choice and free will. And that's the greatest gift that he's given us, that, and obviously his mercy, the free will to choose him. And I just felt so free in that moment, was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to go to England and see what adventure you have for me there. And it's been very difficult, if I'm being honest, but it's also been very, very rewarding. And yeah, I know I keep using the word adventure, but that's really what it is when you say yes to Jesus. So this is my 3rd year in England, and yeah, it's been a great journey.
That's so cool how you just kind of let him lead the whole time. But I love that too, that it's always your choice, and that's what's so beautiful about it, though, is that it is your choice, and then you're choosing to do what he's putting on your heart to do. Mm-hmm. So it's beautiful. But that's perfect. That leads into my next question, which is just basically, what have been some of your biggest challenges after saying yes, but then also what have been some of your greatest joys?
Yeah. I'd say the first challenge that comes to mind is, this might sound silly, but realizing that I'm not perfect and I'm a sinner. I think I had this mindset of like, oh, well, once I become a Focus missionary, like my life's going to be great. And like, I'm going to be perfect. Cause that's sort of how I saw the missionaries on my campus. I was like, oh, well, they've got their life together. They've got it figured out. And when that didn't happen in the first month,
you're like, wait, I thought this was the magic trick.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I'm still sinning. And still struggling to live virtue and to sacrifice my time and things like that. And yeah, it's been a challenge I guess in learning more about myself and who I am and where are the areas that Jesus wants to purify, and also, yeah, where are the areas in my life where I've been wounded that's actually created a block in my relationship with God, and how does he want to very gently come into those wounds and actually totally heal me, because he doesn't just desire to put a band-aid over things in our life that have hurt us or that have moved us in some way, but he desires to totally heal us. Like when he I love reading about Thomas, when Thomas wasn't there in the upper room when Jesus comes back, and Thomas is like, no, I'm only going to believe if I see the holes in his hands and place my finger in my hand into his side. And yeah, Jesus doesn't come back. Jesus doesn't rise from the dead without those wounds, but they're glorified wounds. And like, what an amazing experience it was for Thomas to actually stick his hand into Jesus' side and to have this moment of encounter with his Lord, with our Lord. And that has been such a challenge, like really allowing Jesus into those maybe darker places in my heart or in my life, but has turned into such a reward and such a joy. Because I'm like, the love and mercy I've experienced with God. It's like, as you go deeper in a friendship with someone and you let them in more and more. But this is like on another level, because these are areas maybe I've never let anyone into in my life. But Jesus is like, no, I want to go there. When you're ready and in your time, Kaitlin, I want to go there. And that's been really challenging, but rewarding and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's basically becoming like totally vulnerable.
Yes.
Which
is vulnerability.
Hard. That's not an easy thing, especially because I feel like the world that we live in, it kind of gives the message of like the opposite, like protect yourself from being hurt or being vulnerable. So it can be that's extremely difficult, to do. But I love, he's calling us all because he wants to heal and restore those places that only he knows, which is also weird to think about. Like, it's like only he really knows the inner workings of like your heart and where you've been hurt. Because I think other people, you might share it, but if you don't share it, they don't know these things, but he does. So it's like, I love that. Yeah. Were there any other, like along your journey, were there any kind of influences besides, I guess, the other focused missionaries, but like resources or books or, a retreat that you went on? Did you go on any retreats or podcasts that you want to share that have just kind of helped you to grow in your faith?
Yeah, quite a few things actually. Definitely retreats. I went on my first retreat ever in my life when I was in college, and it was with the Sisters of Life. They are a religious order mainly out of the Bronx in New York, but they have a retreat house in Connecticut, and they do retreats for young women, but also they do co-ed retreats as well. And that was the first retreat I ever went on, and it was amazing. These sisters, if you get a chance, or anyone listening gets a chance to go on a retreat with the Sisters of Life, I would highly, highly recommend it. Amazing experience with them. So definitely retreats have been big in my life. Reading, I love to read. A lot of books that have really impacted me a lot. A few that I'll mention. I read definitely probably in my first year or so of really getting back into my faith. I read a lot about John Paul II's theology of the body and understanding our sexuality and really like how we are made for relationship with God and with one another. And it was basically reading about the truth of our sexuality and our purpose in life in a way that when I was reading, I was like, oh, this is what I've always like maybe thought or desired in my heart, but I didn't know that this was real. I don't know how to really explain it unless you kind of adventure into this whole topic of theology of the body yourself. But I read quite a few different resources on that, and that was really very impactful for me. Alongside that, I have two authors that I love. One is Jacques Philippe. He writes, he's a French priest. He writes very small books. He's written Interior Freedom and Searching for and Maintaining Peace are probably two of his most popular books. And they helped me so much in my prayer life, in just really discovering how to pray, how to really be in communication with God. So that was a huge influence for me. And the other author is maybe a bit less well known, but I've been trying to promote her. Her name is Sister Ruth Burroughs. She has two books that I know of right now. My favorite being The Essence of Prayer. And again, that was another book that really helped me so much in going deeper in my prayer life. And because that's where everything is in my relationship with God. And so I've read a lot of them. And then in terms of podcasts, I haven't listened to a ton of podcasts in my life, maybe a few one-offs, but the one I've been probably most consistent was I listened to Father Mike Schmidt's. Before he was on Ascension Presents and some other things that he's doing now. I just listened to his homilies that he did at the University of Minnesota in Duluth. I think it was called like Bulldog Catholic or something like that was the podcast. But now I listen to all the different things that he has.
Amazing. Seriously, so amazing. All of those are so amazing. I actually really want to check out. I've heard so much about Father Jacques Philippe, all his books, and I haven't yet read one, so I really want to.
It's an easy book to pick up because they're very small. It's a non-threatening because it's so small. So if you're like, I want to read more in my life, but I just don't have the time or I don't know, Jacques Philippe is a good way to go.
I can't wait. It's amazing just how many resources are out there. It's such a gift that I feel like that's what's so beautiful about the Catholic faith is just the richness of the history and how many great thinkers and writers and that the Holy Spirit has raised up to share with others. You could go your whole life like digging deeper and still not find the end of it, which is, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Caitlin. So the last question that I'm hoping to ask everyone who comes on is, can you just share one verse that is either speaking to you recently or that has played a foundational role in your relationship with Christ?
Yes. So something that has been, I guess I'll do something that's been sticking with me lately as I've been in my prayer is, so I've been reading through the Gospel of Luke. And so this is Luke chapter 10, verse 21. I just have my Bible in front, so I'll just read it. At that time, Jesus, full of joy through the Holy Spirit, said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. So that's Luke chapter 10, verse 21. And that verse for me has really been really sticking with me in prayer because Jesus is describing Jesus full of joy. So I'm like picturing Jesus full of joy in the Holy Spirit. And I'm like, Jesus, what are you joyful about? And he's joyful that we become like little children and actually receive the Lord in that way. Like we don't need to be the best of the best, the wise and the learned. We just need to be little children. And I think it's really been sticking with me because I've been praying a lot about dependency and what it means to be human means to be dependent and to be dependent on God. And a child is the most dependent and the most vulnerable of the human race. And so I'm like, wow, that's what the Lord desires us, not only to be dependent, but so dependent and vulnerable like a child, just in his arms, totally trusting in his care and his love for us. And that's, for me, especially right now at the start of Lent, has been really, really brought me so much freedom and peace to just be like, yeah, I am just a child in your arms, Lord. And not only is that what you desire, but that actually makes you full of joy. I love that. Jesus, full of joy in the Holy Spirit. So yeah.
That's so good. I love that. And it's like sometimes it can feel like, oh, there's all these things that Jesus wants us to do. This is impossible. How am I ever going to do this? But then, but then you think about it, and it's like, really, if you just become like a child, the rest, and let Jesus lead, like the rest will fall into place. Like, I think sometimes, it can feel like there's so many different standards that I can't live up to. But ultimately, it's about kind of just letting yourself go to be held by Jesus and led by Jesus. And then your desires and what you end up wanting to do change, and it fits all the other things that we're called to do if you just let Jesus kind of into your heart and let him lead. But at the same time, that is really hard to do, because as humans, we just want to be the one in charge, so it's just really hard to let that go. But that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. I honestly, I feel like that's a good one that you don't really hear much.
Yeah.
It's kind of an underrated one. So thanks for bringing that to light.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. That was such a great conversation. And it's amazing just to see like your journey from, a freshman at UConn, kind of floating around, and then to basically going to Mass and giving, like, I'm going to give this a shot, and how the Holy Spirit just so clearly has worked through other people in your life, like, and guiding you kind of along the way. And then when you do that, it's like you find yourself in London just. But I love that. So is there anything else you want to share today? Or if not, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you, Rachel, for having me. And it's really, it's always such a gift to meet and encounter other people who are also trying to live their life for God, and really we're all on this journey together as his disciples. We're all in the boat, and we just got to let him calm the storm above. So,
I love that. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much for growing some good with us today. Visit us at togrowgood.com/podcast to find links to everything we mentioned in our conversation. Find us on Instagram at togrowgood. See you next week.